There we go. Hello, everybody. This hangout is live. This is the Gin&Tonic show. We are talking about Islam, and we are doing so from the viewpoint of non-believers. In other words, we are non-Muslims, and we're talking about Islam. Today is February, and it's the 28th. It's 2016. And what I need to do is introduce what we are doing, why we're doing this, and
Pause.
then bring some definitions.
I'm looking at the live show on that other page, and it's just telling me the live event will begin in a few moments.
No, you need to refresh it.
I have.
Well, it's
refreshed
live
it.
on mine, so I can hear what we're saying. I can hear you, so
Oh,
it's
it's
live.
Yep, it's gone live now.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a Gin&Tonic show. We're talking about Islam, and I am a non-believer regarding gods. I do not believe gods exist, and for some odd reason, I need to explain this every single week. And every single week, I come across people who simply refuse to learn what an atheist, what a non-believer is. Now, I don't know why this is. I don't think it's that complicated. I don't think it's that difficult. And I don't know why people have to project so much into this one single expression. The way that it works is that if you go and you believe, no, if somebody tells you he's got a Toyota Corolla in the garage, then you say, oh, you've got a Toyota Corolla and da 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 da. Did you take the one with the power steering and the automatic gearbox and I don't know, air conditioning or whatever, or did you take the one without it? And then you discuss maybe some details, and that is the end of the story. Now that somebody comes to you and says, well, I've actually got a fire-breathing, flying monster dragon in my garage. And you think, whoa, that's a little bit different. Now you need to go and provide some evidence for that, because that is something that I'm not just going to let go. I want to see this dragon. Do you have any evidence for the existence of this dragon? And then you go and you open the garage door and he says, well, actually, it's an invisible dragon. Okay, so then you hold out your hand. No, it's actually, well, it's a very special dragon. You can't really feel it. So you can't detect this dragon. So in other words, this person is now fast becoming an expert at detecting the undetectable and telling me that he can detect the undetectable, but I cannot. I just need to believe him that there's a huge fire-breathing monster in his garage. Now, why should I believe that? I don't see any reason why in the history of mankind, nobody's ever seen a dragon. No dragons have ever been found. There's no evidence for any kind of dragon. Why I should believe this person if they say they have a dragon. And it's a magic dragon. It can do all sorts of wonderful things. So this is crazy. So what is it that I am supposed to believe now? What is it that I am supposed to make of a claim that there is a dragon? Should I blindly accept it? Should I blindly go and say, okay, somebody told me that there is a dragon, then I will simply believe there is a dragon? Am I going to do so? No. I am a skeptic. I am a rationalist. I'm a thinker. I'm a lot of things. So I am going to investigate this, and I'm going to analyze it, and I'm going to see, is there any way that I can somehow determine and establish that there's a dragon in there? And then it turns out, nope, I can't. So then I'm going to suspend judgment. I'm going to say, I do not know if there is a dragon. I don't believe it, but I do not know. And now I'm not a dragonist. Yet, if I say the same thing about gods, those people who do believe that gods exist for some odd reason, because people have believed this for the last 2,000 years, then I am now suddenly termed an opposite of a theist, which is an atheist. Now, why do I get my own word for being something that I am not? This is always puzzling to me. I never understand this. Why I should be identified as something that I am not. It's really funny. So anyway, but to get the discussion going, I accept the word. But now it gets even worse, because now people are telling me that I am practicing atheism. Because an ism is always something that follows, something has a goal, has something, you practice it, and I don't. I mean, being a non-believer takes up very little of your time, very little energy. It doesn't, you don't do anything unless you become like me, you become an activist and you actively go out and say, look, I am trying to bring some truth into this whole thing. And I'm not talking about the truth that religion's always called the truth. We are the truthest of the truth, and the truthest of all truthest religions is XYZ. Out of the 200, this one is the one. That's the one. Why not the others? Well, it doesn't matter. This is the one. This one you need to believe. Well, what if I don't want to? Well, then you're going to be punished. By what? Well, by this non-existing entity which lives somewhere outside of this universe. Well, how does this thing outside of the universe know that I'm not what I'm? It gets crazy. Anyway, what I'm trying to find out is, what is it that these believers think, and why do they think it, and what are the consequences for those believers? And this is why I'm always looking at different examples what people are doing. So this is what we're trying to do from the viewpoint of somebody who does not believe in gods, who accepts, yes, okay, I am an atheist. Cool. I'm also an agnostic, even though I think the term agnostic is something that should be eradicated. But we do have it. So nobody knows that there's a God. Nobody knows that there isn't a God. So this is a nonsensical word. But I use it anyway because people, I don't know, they identify with this. So I'm an atheist. I'm an agnostic. I'm a lot of things. But that doesn't mean because I am a non-believer regarding gods that I automatically believe that a Toyota Corolla always comes with air conditioning. I don't know. I do not know if every Toyota Corolla today is delivered with air conditioning. And I do not know if there are gods. So why should I believe it? I don't. That is the whole point. That is the whole thing that I'm trying to get across to people. I don't care if the theory of evolution is correct or not. I care what is true, what is reliable, what is testable, what is demonstrable. So if somebody says to me, look, evolution, well, it was a good shot, but it's wrong. Like Earth is flat, and here we can see why it's flat, and it makes a lot of sense. And there you see there's water up in the sky, because you can see the sky is blue. It's blue like water, so there must be water up there. There you go. So there's water up in the sky, there's water underneath. We are floating on water, because if you drill a hole in the ground, you reach water. So there's water underneath, there's water on top, and that's it. Well, sorry guys, we showed that this is wrong. Now, 200,000 years later, we decided we have evidence. And now we can see that it's not flat, and there's no water above the sky that makes the sky blue. So we are starting to generate facts, not wishful thinking. We don't need the gods. They're being pushed back. We don't need them. We're in the 21st century. We do not need gods anymore. And that is what I am saying. And that is what I'm trying to understand, why people still believe this. I mean, we used to believe, for 200,000 years, we believe Earth is flat. Now, for the last 2,000 years, we know, no, not quite. So why can't we get rid of the other stuff? Why can't we get rid of all this other superstitious nonsense that we still have? Why can't we go and solve the problems that we really do have, instead of thinking about gods? This is crazy. So we're looking at Islam. And why we're looking at Islam? Because Islam affects everybody. And even today, we can't post normal messages, we can't criticize, we can't speak our mind anymore, because Muslims are feeling butthurt, and they say you are not allowed to criticize Islam, because Islam is something special. And you're not allowed to criticize it. You're not allowed to say anything bad about Islam, because Islam is the bestest of the best, and therefore you're not allowed to criticize it. And that's what they're saying. They're saying, well, if you criticize Islam, we're going to shut you down. So Facebook is being shut down, Twitter is being shut down, YouTube is being shut down. Everybody is being shut down where anybody can be who has any kind of impact on Islam in delivering facts. Muslims in general, I'm generalizing, okay? I know that I'm generalizing. I don't mean each and every Muslim. I mean the majority of Muslims do not want to have Islam scrutinized. That's the majority. Now, we always need to, and I always point this out, Most Muslims are better than their God. Most Muslims just want to have a life. They just want to be happy. They just want to have the family and go through the day and just enjoy the creature comforts we have today. They want a phone. They want a telephone. They want TV, all sorts of things. Like, they don't want to kill. They don't want to, cause mayhem. They don't want to do any of that. They're just normal people. But there are others. And it's not that somebody randomly decided, I'm going to go to a random city, go to a random building, go to a random floor, to a random office and shoot some random people because I feel like it. No, it's because somebody got butthurt because Islam was criticized. And because Islam was criticized, they went to Paris, to the place where people criticized Islam, and they shot the people who criticized Islam. So this is not just random, and Islam is not the cause for any of this. It is. I don't know why people insist, no, Islam cannot be the cause. Of course, Islam is the cause. Then we have people like in Syria and in Iraq causing shit all the time, killing and committing atrocities, or in Nigeria or in Somalia or wherever. And these are not random people doing random things. No, they all read from the same book. It's the same identical book. And they all read the same passages, and they all read the hadiths around this book, and they all come to the same conclusion, and that is the superhuman beings, and it says, like it says in the Quran, this religion, this Islam will dominate, and that is what they're doing. So this is the background. So we are non-believers looking at a belief, looking at an ideology, and what I had to learn is that Islam is not just a religion, it's not just about a God, but it's about a God who determines the way of life, everyday life. It's a political ideology. In other words, the Quran tells people all sorts of things. It presents laws, it presents how to treat people, how to handle a country, how to handle a nation, who has what rights, who has no rights, who is allowed to do what to a slave, who is allowed to do what to a female, things like that. So this is an entire nation being run by this one God. So it's always, Islam is always, always a political ideology. Again, some people are better than their God, and they will say, no, we don't want that. We just want a normal life. I just need a God because I think that this God made this universe, and I don't want to be the one who loses out and goes to hell. So just to be safe, let me put some money. And now we're speaking literally, money. They have to pay money. As a Muslim, you need to pay money to be a Muslim, and you need to go and make sure that you end up in heaven, because there you're going to be rewarded. If not, it's the duality, it's the dichotomy within Islam. If you don't go to heaven, you're tortured for eternity. This is the alternative. So a lot of people hedge this and say, okay, let me pay the money to get out of hell. This is what Islam is about, paying money to stay and keep out of hell so that you get a reward and you go to heaven. Because if you don't go to hell, you automatically go to heaven. And for this, they have invented a God, and this has been going on for the last 1,000 years, and people are still believing this today. Talk about a successful story. But people enjoy this. People like these kind of stories, and this is what we're talking about to explain this. Now, the way that it works is we have a video. First we do the definitions, then we do a video of the week, misconception of the week, news, and then finally we end on the hadith of the week. So what we're going to talk about today is different things. I've got some things lined up. The video of the week, which I originally selected, is about refugees in Sweden. Oh, by the way, does this work what I normally do? I don't know if anybody has checked. Because what I'm doing is, number one, after the show, I wait until everything is processed, and then I go into the video and I update all the topics. So I go to the description box, and then I put an update with all the topics, with everything that we talked about, with all the links, with all that into the YouTube video. Then I download the whole thing and put it into the archive. And then again, I take all the topics and blah, 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 all the links. Has anybody ever checked this? Because obviously if I'm on my own account, then I can't check this. So if somebody
Yes, I've been
ever
going back.
verified that, that would be brilliant.
Yes, I've been going back to YouTube to comment on some of the things I've said in the podcast, which I think might have been misunderstood. So, like when I said something about us being slaves, I went into a little bit more detail in saying that we're all slaves. It's not particularly black Africans or white people or whatever. It was more of a social construct that we're all slaves to the system. And I wasn't advocating slavery. I was advocating the fact that we should be fighting it. We should be gaining more rights. So yes, when I went back to look at that and make comments, I checked a few things, and yes, they are working spam. You don't have to worry.
Brilliant. Okay, because it's good to know that somebody outside has gone and done this, so that I'm not doing this for nothing, thinking that I'm doing it.
No, you've got quite a few people who enter comments. They don't seem to be on the show itself or in the chat rooms, but they're certainly on the YouTube channel. So they're having a little discussion there. Maybe you should make up a false account and go in there blind as another person.
Oh, I am so sick and tired of opening accounts. Everybody wants to know. Now the latest thing is everybody wants to know your phone number. No, you can't open an account unless you give me your phone number. Yeah, but you can only use your phone number once and never. I mean, this is so fucking ridiculous, really. I mean, I don't know why.
So
the Gin and Tonic show now has comments. It has comments.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's working. Well, don't go there and try it. It's good enough if we do everything here on the thingamajig. But
can you read that name for me?
Sorry?
I've just, in the comments section, I've just printed a name. Could you read it for me? Because I'm pretty sure.
Saudi cleric Sheikh Saad al-Atiq.
Yes, he's just been mentioned by the masked Arab because of some incredible fatwa show he has, where he has just said that women, Muslim women, who post pictures of themselves and their children on social media platforms, they risk becoming afflicted with diseases, including cancer. He has warned people who might print these pictures and apply sorcery to them, causing these photographs to fall ill. And he just mentioned, he brought out this show on the 3rd of February 2016. So we can obviously see Islam is entering the modern age by bringing magic and superstition onto your social media platforms.
Unbelievable. And it's unbelievable. Well, there's the story of the taxi driver. When a Muslim got in, he said, "Can you please switch off the radio? I don't want to hear the music," because in the days of the Prophet, we didn't have radios and music. So the guy stopped and said, "Well, get out and wait for a camel."
How they're going to cope with tomorrow? Is that a magical, mystical event for them, being leap year? It's the 29th of February tomorrow.
Yeah, but the moon doesn't have a leap year.
So it's purely a westernized thing. They're not going to be worried about.
Yeah, because it's the fine-tuning. The fine-tuning says that 1 month needs to have 28 days, and then the fine-tuning says every 4 years we need to add 1 day, because the fine-tuning says that it's much easier to do it that way.
All right, so you don't have to worry about Muslims in your calendar.
No. It's not like an eclipse. I mean, if there's an eclipse, then they go and they commit mass suicide because they don't know how to handle an eclipse. They don't know what that is because it's not explained in the Quran, so they don't know what an eclipse is. So, Alasa is back. Okay, hello. Sorry, GP.
Do they do what he did? Do they try to mimic him and run away and hide under cover?
Yep. Because they don't know what it is. I mean, you heard the story that Ramadan has been predicted by the observatory in Dubai. And the observatory says the moon for Ramadan is going to show up at 6:15. And the religious council in Riyadh said, "We don't give a continental fuck what your observatory says, whether it's going to come out 6:15. We have positioned people who are going to sit on top of a minaret and wait for the moon, and they will tell us when the moon comes up. If this happens to be 6:15, that's fine. But whether you tell us that it's going to be 6:15 or not, is absolutely irrelevant. We're not going to listen to it. There you go. Okay, let's quickly run through this. The video of the week that I selected was refugees in Sweden get a luxury cruise liner so that they can rape in peace whoever is inside this ship. And this is a video by somebody called the Doctor of Common Sense. And it's a very funny video. And I thought this is brilliant. Just as I thought, okay, this is my video of the week, and just because during the week I come across things, and then I think, oh, this is for the Gin and Tonic show. Then I quickly take a piece of paper, write down and then put everything into one file, and this is then what I use during the show. This is what I now have in front of me, and it says the refugees in Sweden get a luxury cruise liner because now this is actually incredibly clever. If you put people on a cruise liner, even if it's a luxury cruise line, doesn't matter. But these people are going to be on this cruise ship. They're not going to be wandering around raping people in town. They're going to be on this cruise line, and they do not have many options because there's only one gangway, and it's very easy to shut that gangway off. So this is actually a brilliant idea of putting people into cruise liners. Like Qatar is already saying, we will need a huge amount of hotels and accommodation for people coming for the football championship in 22. So what we're going to do is we're going to hire a couple of cruise liners, put them into the harbor, and then people can book the rooms there. That's brilliant.
I heard Sweden was doing something else, having a 2 strikes you're out policy for dual passport holders.
Oh, I didn't even know that. That follows the US thing. If you are a criminal and you are repeating a repetitive criminal, then you have also this 3 strike out thing where if you are a petty thief and you get caught, then you do a second time. If you do not stop then and you are caught a third time, then they go down on you and you are hammered with a huge fine.
Yes, well, this was the program I was listening to on LBC was saying that it was linked to even crimes such as driving offences like speeding. If you were caught speeding twice within 2 years, you're out, you leave, you're deported.
Wow.
So it's quite draconian. And they was saying, was this against their human rights? Was this a bit too much? It's not like they were raping anyone, they were just speeding.
So how is this against human rights again?
Well, the human rights laws have some pretty weird provisions which state you have to have a kind of a life, and being excluded from having a life in Sweden because you're speeding might be considered against your human rights of having a family.
Or you can go and speed somewhere else.
They don't look at it like that, funnily enough. Okay. A lot of the human rights activists and laws tend to favour the victim, or rather the person being deported, rather than the person they've committed a crime against.
So anyway, I think it's a brilliant idea to put people on a cruiser, on a cruise liner, and just park them there. And these things can hold, what, 5,000 people. So this is brilliant. I know Switzerland will have a problem to do that, but other countries have access to the sea, and they can then do this.
Well, it probably won't work, because you remember when they started opening up the holiday resorts, and they were shipping the Muslims into the holiday resort towns, they were up in arms saying this was not good enough. It was not near social centres. They had to walk 5 miles to the local village so they could get their Wi-Fi to work.
Well, in the ship you don't need to do that.
Yeah, the trouble will be getting them on board.
Well,
that's what I'm trying to point out, that they will say, you can't put us on board, you're taking us away from the city centres, you're putting us on a ship. And
brilliant, and we'll fly you back to Syria.
Isn't there something, are Muslims particularly fond of water and the sea? I'm not sure that, I mean, they talk about the camel being the ship of the desert, but it's not exactly...
well, they talk about the sea a lot in the Qur'an. I mean,
they're not Vikings.
You can't mix salt and sweet water, for example, or with the 2 seas that don't mix and things like that. Anyway, the refugees in Sweden are one thing, but then this video came up, and I thought, no, come on, I need to add this, and I'm not going to wait on, because, okay, I could make it cheap now and then keep this one for next week. But this was too nice. There's a social experiment. Well, it's a prank actually, where an old man, a 65-year-old man, stands next to a 12-year-old girl, and she's decked out like a bride, okay, all in white and blah, blah, blah. And then you have a photographer taking photographs, and then people stop and they say, "Excuse me, what is this?" And then the photographer tells people, well, they're getting married, and she's only 12 and he's 65. And then the reaction of people, and all this does, is to draw attention to the child bride practice, which is still active in many countries. And it's brilliant how some people react, how some people actually go and they take the girl and they say, listen, you are too young to be married. I'm going to take you away from here. We're going to take you back to your parents. No, but the parents, they agreed, and they have given their consent, and I'm allowed to marry her. And it's brilliant to see the reactions. Now, what I did is I checked what is actually the minimum legal age on our planet. And what is really strange is that in most countries it's 18. But there are places where it's less. There's one place where it's 14. And there's another place, in some places actually 21. And then in most places you have a consensual marriage where if the parents or the church or the police or the judge or somebody can give their consent, then there is it's a lot younger. And in some cases there is none, like in Saudi Arabia, there is no minimum age for marriage. And that is amazing. But even in there's a state in the United States, which is Mississippi, where you're allowed to get married when you're 14. And that is amazing. So I didn't even know that. I didn't think that there were places in the 21st century on this planet where you can still get married when you're younger than 18. But in general, it is 18 or 21. And I think that's correct, because I can't see a girl getting married who's younger than that, because she simply is not capable. I maintain this is so. Okay, now, GP, do you want to quickly talk about this? Because GP went and watched a discussion between Sam Harris and Maryam Namazi, and we all know that Sam Harris is quite vocal about the problems inherent in Islam, and Maryam is somebody who says, no, we need to be realistic. We're not allowed to criticize Muslims. We are only allowed to criticize the bad ideas within Islam, and her being from Iran, an ex-Muslima. And this was a discussion between the two, and GP went through this, and he would like to raise some points. Go for it.
Well, I would say it was less of a discussion and more of a, will you be quiet, Sam? I've got something to say discussion. Because no matter how much Sam would try to pin her to certain points or ask her questions, she would always tell him to shut up. It has caused probably one of the largest Twitter storms this week, with supporters of Sam Harris attacking Miriam. It's gotten to the point where she's actually told quite a few of them to fuck off. Obviously, she's very upset about it. What the actual discussion Sam was trying to bring out was about the generalities of what's going on in the world in the Muslim and Western communities. And what Miriam was trying to say was, no, you shouldn't treat them. If we've got all these Syrians, and she completely ignored any suggestion that they are not Syrians, migrants, are coming away from a tattering war zone, and they need our help now, in your country, be it Germany, Switzerland, England, doesn't matter, they need to get to your country now for humanitarian needs. And when she was asked, well, what about the known Islamists, and a particular religion was quoted as mostly full of fanatics, she agreed, yes, they're full of fanatics, then you should not allow them in. And Sam would point out, but they haven't actually done anything wrong. They've held an idea, but they've not actually done anything. And she said, well, no, you must arrest them. You must deport them. So her arguments were fail upon fail, literally a minefield of brain farts. I would say it is probably one of the most infuriating interviews you could possibly hear and listen to, and I welcome and encourage everybody to go and do it to see how stupid people can be when they are obsessed with an end game which does not have any grounding in reality, which is Marian's position.
Okay, so she was saying you need to deport Muslims?
She was saying you must not deport Muslims. That is, in paraphrasing, gross and racist. You can only deport Islamists who have nothing to do with Islam.
No, I still don't get this.
Neither did Sam, and that was the point of the interview. Nobody in the Twitter community can understand what on earth she is saying. It makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, God bless her. She comes up with some very good political stances. She's part of the One Law for All campaign in England, and one can get 100% behind that One Law for All. But when she comes out with some of the other things she believes in, the cognitive disassociation she's got is absolutely phenomenal. She is so far to the communist left that she will not see anybody. Well, listen, she will say, and quite rightly, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. You can accept that.
Sure.
But she'll take it to a logical extension. Because everybody is innocent, nobody is ever guilty. Until you absolutely prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're innocent. Or rather, sorry, that they're guilty.
Yeah,
and because they're always innocent, yes, but because they're always innocent, you have to let every single migrant into your country first, before you, and wait until they break a law before you deport them.
Hang on. No. If
yes. I'm talking about her position.
Yeah, okay, but somebody is guilty if they go and they kill somebody, for example, for Daesh in Syria, right?
Yes, one could say they are guilty of breaking somebody else's law, so for in Syria.
So if somebody is known to have been fighting in Syria and who's been planting bombs, killing other people, then I would imagine that is sufficient reason not to let them into a country.
But let's say you don't know, you only suspect. You haven't actually prosecuted them, therefore they are still innocent.
Okay, but remember, I have the right to go and let somebody into my country according to my rules.
Yes,
so yes, they might be innocent in my country, but if I determine that they have done something that I do not deem wanted in my country, then I have the right, I think, to reject.
Have you tried them first in absentia?
No.
In that case, they're still innocent, aren't they?
Okay, I get your point. Yeah,
and that is the logical extremes I think she has actually got to, because you haven't actually proven them guilty. You must let them in, and then if they break a law or you judge them to have broken a law, you can do with them as you will.
I didn't actually listen to this one because I had read about it, but it just looked too infuriating from the description. But isn't she basically just coming out with the standard Blair line, which is all religions are peaceful, Islam is fundamentally peaceful, so you sort of have to assume that?
Yes, I think so.
No, that's not what she says. No. She has a bone to pick. She has an axe to grind with Muslims, okay? And especially then with jihadists and Islamists, yes. And this is where she is adamant, and there she is quite scathing. But when it comes to innocent Muslims, you know, this, how do you call innocent Muslims? This run-of-the-mill standard people Muslims, cultural Muslims, whatever you want to call them.
Okay.
Then she says, do not go and prosecute those people the same way as you would the Islamists and jihadists.
Well, that's where she goes on to the profiling. That was the first topic they discussed, and she was arguing that it was wrong of Sam Harris to advocate profiling, because on the steps of profiling, the first step you have to take to narrow your target group is to say, Muslims. Then you could go a little bit further and say Wahhabi Muslims, couldn't you? Or Muslims who wear burqas, or Muslims who dress with skirts, as those men do. But she was saying you can't take the first step and say Muslims, so you can't profile anyone.
Yeah, it's true. It's a bit difficult. Just because somebody wears a dress does not automatically mean he's a Salafi or Wahhabi. So I mean, she is right. It is difficult with the profiling, but there are some generalizations which can be made, I suspect.
She was cutting her noses off to spite her face, in my opinion. She's also character assassinated quite a few people. I got the feeling that she considers people like Sam and Douglas Murray, to name two, as on the verge of being bigots and racists, and she definitely thinks Tommy Robinson is a bigot and a racist because of his former involvement with the English Defence League.
Does she actually say racist?
Yeah, I think she did.
Because I would imagine that Sam is going to slap her over the wrist for that one.
He did. Sam did. He said, "Did you ever bother to see any of his interviews on the Rubin show?" To which you replied, "No, because he's a bigot and a racist."
Oh shit! But it shows you, just because you're an atheist doesn't mean you're also brilliant. You're a clever, or you're a bright or something. No, you're not. And you make mistakes, and you are bigoted in some ways as well. And I know that she hates me, and I know that some people from the CMB don't like the way that I voice my opinion, because I am quite strict on that, and I say, yes, Islam is to blame, and there is no way around it, and that is the way that I see it, and I will not back down from this, and until somebody proves that I am wrong. But up until now, I've never had anybody who can show that I am wrong. So if somebody does, fine. But until then, I will hold this opinion. And that is what she doesn't like. And some people in CMB also don't like. So
she is very much in that sort of camp of my view or the highway. Very much so. And it was very amusing. Like I say, if you're feeling very angry and you want to really tip yourself over the edge and scream and shout and get very pounding on the table, or picking up a cushion and beating it up, then certainly listen to the podcast, because you'll be thoroughly saturated in some of the most stupendous stupidity that has graced the airwaves.
Okay, so if somebody wants to have some I forgot the hormones now. Okay, if you want this, then go ahead and watch it.
But if you want to calm down a little bit, then I would suggest you go to Rubin's report and have a listen to the two podcasts he's done recently, one with Sadgad and the other one with Lalo Digash. I personally prefer the Lalo Digash one, and on Monday he's got both of them being interviewed. So have a chat, pop over to his YouTube site and have a listen to those two interviews. You get a lot of nice information, particularly on the Gad Sad one, what it was like to be a Jew. I think it would be the 70s when there was a civil war going on in the Lebanon. He dismisses, I think I've heard on this channel, the myth that the Lebanon was respectful to other religions. He's quite adamant in saying they were respectful only if they could ignore you. If you started to come out of the cupboards and into the light as a Jew, they'd kill you. That was his experiences over there.
Well, I've been there and I didn't experience that at all. I found Beirut quite relaxed and quite open and like very nonchalant about religion.
Isn't Lebanon very segregated? You've got Muslim areas and Christian areas, so
could be, because I know when I saw a video about Hamas, the Hezbollah defending the the Lebanon border, the villagers who were talking, one was a Christian village, the other one was a Shiite state sort of village, and it was quite obvious there were only Christians in that village and there were only Muslims in the other village. They were not a mixture.
So maybe Beirut then is different, and you can't use Beirut as a yardstick.
Possibly not. Cities do tend to be a little bit more diverse and multicultural, don't they? Because of the amount of trade that flows through it. You get all sorts trying to make a living there.
Yeah, because you see this. I mean, Kuala Lumpur or Jakarta, if you go there, come on, there's you wouldn't think that there's any fundamentalist Muslim out there.
Mm.
Okay. Okay, I would like to draw attention to a misconception of the week that I have determined this week, because I get this again and again and again, that people are saying to me, well, the Quran is valid for all times. But hang on, what about the violent sentence, which is, you know, a commandment to kill all non-believers? Well, not that one, because that one was because it was for a battle, and the Muslims had to be told, because they were still weak, that they had the permission from God to kill everybody who attacked them. Okay, how does that now clash with sentence number 1, the Quran is valid for all times? No, yeah, it is, but not this specific one. So it's a misconception that people say the Quran is valid for all times, because when they don't want it to be valid for all times, then they will say, no, this is because Muhammad did this, because this is what happened in Muhammad's life, and because Muhammad had a fight with his wives, then in the Quran it tells you that don't be angry with Muhammad, it's the wives who are to blame, and don't marry Muhammad's wives. But the Quran is valid for all times. Yes, it is valid for all times. But not the marrying the wives. That was specific for that time period. So what part is valid for all times and what part is not? No. All of the Quran is valid for all times except some specific ones. Oh, boy. You know, it drives you crazy because you don't know at the end what is what. Nobody has defined it. And this, once again, is my old saying, I wish Muslims would take ownership of their Quran and determine what is what.
I had a Muslim conversation regarding something similar. I was asking him about, well, why is it that Muhammad told all of his followers they could have up to 4 wives, but he actually had quite a few? And his reply was, well, God didn't tell him until later. And I was like, forehead, palm, hello. They go to such extraordinary lengths to try and defend their religion.
It is, and the whole thing, if you think about it, for 200,000 years, God did absolutely zilch. I mean, you could do whatever you want, and blah, blah, and nothing. I mean, you would think that somebody in the DNA would put in there, okay, don't do this, don't keep slaves, don't own people, and that would be the end of the story. Then you don't have to write a book about this. No. He goes and writes a book which he knows in 200,000 years people will still not be able to understand. So why not wait 202 years when there will be the internet, when you can have a god.com and you can put everything on there and explain it, and you can be in a discussion, in a relationship with the people. Instead of doing it the way that it's done now, to reveal some funny, vague sentences to some people who can't read or write and can't communicate. It's so silly if you think about it. The longer and more I think about it, the worse it is. Okay, Islam. We heard that Islam is really picky, and now I found that Siri is picky. I'm going to talk a little bit about Siri, then about FGM, female genital mutilation, and then some big stuff. Now, Siri, does anybody not know what Siri is? Siri is this voice-activated machine thing, a parser, which listens to some words and then has some standard replies, and they use a female voice to give you some quips or some replies or something. And there is some limited interaction with the programming of the phone, so that you can tell the telephone, please enter an appointment for Tuesday, I don't know, 10 o'clock dentist. And then the phone will automatically enter dentist into that appropriate date. That is quite useful if you don't mind being monitored all the time, because of course Siri needs to know where you are, Siri needs to know what you're doing, Siri needs to have access to your calendar, Siri needs to have access to everything on the phone, to every single thing, because if you tell Siri, please call Dr. Breitbart and make an appointment, then she needs to know who this is in your phone book. So if you don't mind all of that, then go ahead by all means and share everything with Siri. The only problem, well, not the only, there are some problems, okay? Because the first problem is that, of course, it's very limited. So you can only have some simple tasks. But there's another problem, something which I never thought of, and this is a problem which is quite weird, because a radio station has demonstrated this, asking for information on Buddhism. So you ask Siri, can you tell me what Buddhism is? And Siri refers to an entry on Wikipedia on Buddhism. And then she goes off, and then you say, well, give me Christianity. And again, they're taken to Wikipedia. Now, what they've done is they've switched off the location services. In other words, Siri does not know where you are at that moment, because both the GSM and the GPS detection services are switched off. Now they go and they ask, tell me something about Islam. And now, surprise, surprise, no answer. First, the owner is required to switch on the location services so that the iPhone can establish the location of the phone and does not reveal anything before that. This is so that information critical of Islam will not be shown to someone in an Islamic country. So if I am in Riyadh and I ask you, give me something about Islam, it's going to say Islam is the bestest of the best. Whereas if I'm in a Islam, what is an Islam critical country? I don't know. UK. No, it's not. What is it? There's no Islam critical country. Anyway, so if you're somewhere outside, it will give you the information on Islam. So is this the next level of censorship, where even our phones can't use free speech any longer? I mean, why is Islam special?
Is it possible? I've been wondering, is it possibly even a good idea? Because I was reading about the Coptics, the 4 Coptic lads who have recently been sentenced to imprisonments and 1,000 lashes for insulting, or I think they were either insulting Islam or, they were insulting Islam on Twitter or something. So if you had a phone which was displaying critical analysis of Islam in Egypt, could not the state do you for blasphemy? And would not the makers of the phone wish to save you from the religious police by not displaying that information and getting you arrested and imprisoned?
So if Siri says, well, Islam is some shitty religion with some stupid god, then Siri goes to jail.
No, they'd arrest the lads, wouldn't they? The religious police, they'd say, you deliberately looked for information to denigrate our God. And you were displaying it on your iPhone, even though you were looking at it only yourself.
Exactly. So what is that? That's censorship. So they're censoring Apple Siri.
Are they censoring it now to save the lives of the ex-Muslims and other faiths who are looking for information, but if they find it, the state will persecute and do nasty things to them?
Yeah, but it was Siri who did this, not the owner.
Yeah, are they doing it to protect the owners? I think it's a philosophical, moral, ethical question, but is it a good thing to do to protect people's lives, to prevent them from being...
Yeah, but what kind of a society do they live in? Why are they so afraid of this? Why are there so many Muslims who are afraid of truth and facts?
Well, it's not it's probably not even the majority. You just have to have the religious police, don't you?
Well, it depends how you handle them. I mean, if you're just a normal, religious believer, and you say, well, there's a God and he built the universe, and he's a guy who's going to send Jesus out to judge me, so I'm going to be a good boy, and then I'm going to get a mansion when I'm dead, and I'm going to have a good life, and I'm going to get to screw all these nice virgins, and what a wonderful eternity I'm going to have. Well, if that guy then pays the zakat and you know and skips lunch during Ramadan and things like that, then that's it. Who cares? Nobody. But if you live in a society where this person is not allowed to look for Islam, is not allowed to look for information on Islam because he might get the wrong version of this, there's something wrong.
Oh, it's a theocracy, isn't it? I'm sure that the Iranian definition of Islam is probably different to the Saudi Arabian definition of Islam in some degrees.
Yeah, but I think that Islam on Wikipedia is pretty neutral.
Well, in that case, it's definitely anti-Islam.
I wonder what happens if you're in North Korea and you tell Siri, give me North Korea. Does it also say, depending on where you are, if you are outside, you get the truth. If you're inside North Korea, it says North Korea is the most brilliant country on the planet.
I would have thought Kim Jong-un would have made sure that iPhones don't work in his country.
I thought this is so funny. I don't understand why they are so afraid of reality. Really, this is crazy. And,
I mean,
and
it's
Ike
like
says,
that
yeah, of course,
Saudi
because maybe a wife of Muhammad is alive, and the Quran quite rightly says you're not allowed to marry her because you don't know. Maybe there's a wife who's 1,000 years old. Come on, it used to happen in the Bible and the Quran.
Yes, yeah, they used to live quite a few hundred years. Was it Adam's reportedly 60 foot tall? I'm surprised we haven't spotted him walking along the American jungles with Bigfoot.
Okay, now a little bit more sad topic, which is female genital mutilation. Now, just to make sure, there is nothing in the Quran about circumcision. There is nothing in the Quran about modifying genitalia at all. There's nothing there. I mean, it doesn't even say that you need, I mean, let's not get into this. Anyway, so neither male nor female, any cutting or modification of genitals is mentioned in the Quran. Now, in the Hadiths, it's vague and ambiguous, as always, where, for example, you get a sentence which says, where the cut parts meet during sex. And that's all it takes. The cut parts meeting during sex. So the Quran says nothing, but Muslims are convinced if they follow the Sunnah, then circumcision, the Sunnah way, is the way to go. And this is why it is Sunnah for the woman to get cut. But cut, what does that mean? So the cultural female reduction of the clitoris has ceased in most parts, but many girls in Africa still have this tradition. And somebody from United Nations has estimated this to be around 200 million women in Africa alone. And for some odd reason, they're Muslims. And now doctors in the US have suggested a compromise. Why not just make 3 small cuts surgically under controlled conditions, just to fulfill the ritualistic requirements, and then avoid the girls being sent to Africa and get cut up like horribly, calling it genital mutilation. And what they want to do is call it a genital alteration. Just make 3 small cuts.
Why did you say it's not really in the Hadith when I'm looking at a Islam question and answer page which says Al-Bukhari 5889 and Muslim 257 have said it is part of Islam. It's one of the fitra.
What does it mean, part of Islam? What does it say?
Part of the fitra. Circumcision, shaving of the pubes, cutting the nails, plucking the armpit hairs and trimming the moustache. This hadith includes circumcision of both males and females. I'm going to copy paste so you the page and
does it say which hadith actually?
Yes. Al-Bukhari 5889, Muslim 257 from Abu Hurairah.
Abu Hurairah.
Yeah.
Okay, this was what? Bukhari? Give me the name again, because that would be new for me.
Give me a few seconds, because I'm going to copy and paste it. I'm just having trouble with the mouse on this page. There we go. Can you see it on the Hangout page?
Bukhari 5889. Copy. Bukhari.
I have heard other Muslims say it is actually part of the faith. So,
okay, let me go to Wiki Islam.
If you want to, I can read from. I have a fatwa book from Ibn Taymiyyah where he talks about female circumcision.
it has
Or it's called khitan.
point 2.
Okay, this one. All right, Abu, just a second. What it says here in 5889 and 257 from Hurayra is that that Muslims that Muhammad said the fitra, in other words, the built-in belief in Muslims in every human consists of 5 things. This is fitra, shaving, cutting the nails, plucking armpit hairs, and trimming the mustache. So these are the things that are built into a human being, and it just says circumcision, but it doesn't specify what it is. Then it says when a man sits between the 4 parts, arms, legs of his wife, and the 2 circumcised parts meet. This is exactly what I was referring to. This is the only one that I know which is actually explicit. Do not go extreme in cutting. Abu Dawood. Yeah, but this is now Abu Dawood. Okay. Narrated from Atiyah al-Ansari that a woman used to do circumcision in Medina, and the Prophet said, do not go to the extreme in cutting. That is better for a woman and more like by the husband. But the scholars differed concerning this. Exactly. Some class it as weak, other class it as sahih, it's classed and so on. And then al-Nawawi circumcision. Okay, but now we're going into the fiqh. This is no longer hadith. Okay, Abu, yes, what does the fatwa say? Not a lot. Okay, then in
the fatwa of Sheikh Achia Saga, the former head of the Fatwa Committee of Al-Hazra, says the calls which urge the banning of female circumcisions are called that go against Islam, because there is no clear text in the Qur'an or Sunnah, and there is no opinion in the fatwa that says that female circumcision is haram. Female circumcision is either obligatory or recommended, even though there is a fiqh principles which says that the decree of a ruler may put the end to a dispute regarding the controversial matters. The decree of the ruler in this case cannot be but either of the 2 things, that it is either obligatory or recommended, and it is not correct to issue a decree banning it. I don't want to go any further. I think he's basically saying do it.
Okay, yeah, we get the picture. And this is the whole thing. But what I said is there is no clear command about this.
Well, he's saying the command is the fact that it hasn't been harammed. Because it hasn't been harammed, it should be done.
Well, it doesn't say that I should cut my fingers off.
Then you should cut your fingers off.
Exactly. So I wonder what Abu has found in the.
Well, it does, doesn't it? I mean, it says if you steal, I mean, that's a command to cut your finger off. So if the fact that it has been given a precedent for why you should cut your fingers off, it doesn't say you should cut your fingers off unless you steal. So,
okay,
no, you can't cut
it
your
says here, we do not know of any hadith in which the Prophet ordered that his wives or daughters be circumcised, but it is narrated that he advised a woman who did to do it the proper way. It's narrated that a woman used to do circumcision, the hadith was classed and so on. This is the same thing again.
So we really got a case of it isn't in the Quran, but why the hell did they put it in with the hadiths? what was going on in their little brains when they decided to add this rather cultural and quite obviously nothing to do with God
Well, it's not in the Hadith
method
either.
of faith.
It's not in the Hadith. It doesn't say women should be circumcised by taking off 15 grams of clitoris.
Yeah, well, it's saying circumcised, isn't it?
Okay,
One is assuming that circumcision or circumcised for women, they have an idea of what it meant in their society.
okay, but what does circumcise mean? It means going around, right?
Yes, and they
So
knew what it was
it makes
for
a lot
men.
of sense.
So
Okay,
they knew what it was for men, but they probably knew culturally what it was for women. It was one of those possible things where you didn't have to say what it meant because everybody knew at that time.
exactly. This is what I'm saying. So we need to interpret it because we don't know. So there's no clear command. It doesn't say like do not eat pig meat or carrion or eat blood or something like that. There is no clear command here. So it's all down to interpretation and what you make of it. So
Popularization, isn't it? The most popular thing, what everybody does, everybody does.
okay, and now what doctors have said is, why don't we just make 3 cuts? Because what happens in the States is that people say, well, if the doctors are not going to circumcise my girls, I will have to send them to Somalia, and there they take old razor blades and just cut the girls up. And then after a month, they're sent back to America, now they're circumcised, and everybody's happy that they're missing half their clitoris. And so doctors have said, well, why don't we just make 3 cuts, and then you can say that they are circumcised. And remember last week we were talking about losing face and family honor and things like that. And that is all it is. They're just trying to maintain the honor of the family by saying, our honor is high because our girls are cut. That's crazy. That's crazy. And then, come on. And then doctors are saying, okay, then let's make 3 cuts, just to keep the honor. But do we have to accept every cultural notion? Is this really protecting the honor of a woman? And does this send the message that genital mutilation is acceptable in the US if they go and just make 3 cuts? I mean, what kind of a doctor will voluntarily go and make 3 cuts into a girl's genitals, just for some superstitious reason from 1,000 years ago? So I don't know. What does it do? What does that do? Does that open the floodgate now that doctors are going to be crazy?
We could only take a position where we could say we don't particularly like what you're doing over there, but how and what moral justification have we got to do anything more than say we just don't approve? I was talking to the last pharaoh. He was criticising the West for not defending those Coptic lads, and I said, well, what do you expect us to do? Go over and bomb you?
And?
Well, you're saying, well, you've got to speak up more. You've got to tell us off. But it's like I said, well, what can you do? I can tell somebody my disapproval, but if I'm going to be violent, nation to nation, I think you're probably going to find it's not conducive to world peace.
Yeah, it's weird because if you don't do something, then people complain that you're not doing anything, and if you do something, people complain that you are. So it's
So I think,
a rock and a hard place.
in many ways, I can only speak of the English and British look on this. They banned it, and they actively seek people who do it, and then prosecute them to the extent of the law. But it has taken many decades to get to that stage. It wasn't done overnight. There was a lot of people fighting against it, obviously, for it to take so long.
Are we talking FGM here?
Yes.
I thought they still hadn't actually prosecuted anyone over it.
They haven't prosecuted, to my knowledge, but they don't. They have put all the words out saying we disapprove most strongly.
Yeah, but now the physicians in the States are saying, well, why don't we go and make 3 cuts, just to fulfill the ritual?
Yes.
But now, is that correct? Is that the right way to go? Is that not pandering to a stupid superstition from 1,000 years ago?
Well, of course it is, but what choice do they have? They either do the full cut or they do a partial cut. And maybe they're opting to do a partial cut to save people to going, oh, and you're wrong, Jeremy. There has been prosecuted, and that doctor, he was done and struck off for doing an FGM.
I mean, shouldn't you? I mean, does she want to do it herself? And is she like older than 18, or is it she younger than 18?
They're doing it before puberty, I think.
Okay, then it's a child, and they are what was it called in English? You call it aggravated assault. You can go to jail for that.
I would call it exactly that.
So if they're aggravated assault against children.
But it's happening in places like Egypt.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You take
British law can't reach to Egypt.
No. But if her father take her to Egypt, I mean, if I can't take a child from Scandinavia and wait a minute, I'm not gonna beat you here, but I go to Egypt and then I beat the fuck out. Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Exactly.
But I beat you blue and yellow, as we say here, and then I go back. I mean, you can't do that. It's still, you have committed a crime anyway.
Well, not according to Egypt. Not according to Egyptian law.
No, not according to Egypt, but according to Scandinavian law. You can't. I mean, it's the same thing. If you go to Syria and commit war crimes, you're gonna go to jail for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but if I'm in the UK and I say I hate God, I think he's a stupid idiot. You're allowed to do that in the UK, but if you do it in Pakistan, you get killed. Now, does Pakistan now go and kill that guy?
No, but look.
There's very few.
Look, they are probably British. Oh, what you call? Is this America?
Yeah.
Okay, so they are American citizens.
Yeah.
So if they take their children, they are not adult. It's not their free choice. Even if it is their free choice, if they're not old, if they're younger than 18, if they take them to that country and commit aggravated assault, they should go to jail. And that's how you solve the problem.
In American law, I believe they can do that. President Obama put it in writing. That's why they excused the fact they went over to Yemen and used a drone to kill 2 American citizens. It's written into their legal system. They can do it. They can take the law to another country. Their law.
Yeah, of course they can.
But Britain can't. From my knowledge.
No. But look, as I say, if I have a child, I take it from Scandinavia. I go to the North Pole or something. I beat the child up in the North Pole. Then I go back with myself and the child. That's aggravated assault. It doesn't matter if you committed the crime on the North Pole or in Scandinavia. You still committed the crime, and therefore you have to go to jail.
I think it does matter.
I'm trying to remember how they managed to get the women who went to Syria, what they prosecuted them for. And I'm pretty sure that going to Syria wasn't actually illegal. They got them for other technicalities.
Because I think the crime must be committed in the country where it is a crime. Because if you commit a crime which is not a crime in another country, you can't be tried for it in a different country. Unless it's a global law that you're broken. For instance, the United Nations have a number of international laws which all countries are supposed to adhere to. Well, war crimes,
like torture, for example. Torture is an international crime.
Yeah,
Isn't
but I'm
this
talking
torture?
about civil crimes.
Yeah, but I mean, I think this is both an international crime and a civil crime.
And I think it's an international crime because it would fall under
torture
the religions and religions.
Torture is international. It's against what's called
the Jews
Hague
would be very upset if you say that they're doing torture on their young boys.
Well,
it's
so
probably
what?
been loopholed, so it's
so
not
what?
a crime.
It's yeah, but so what if they say that? If you're gonna have a law against torture, it has to be consistent.
Well, I'm saying that because you have a law doesn't mean that religions don't get their little loopholes which exclude themselves. So you can't prosecute them.
Well,
no, we can't do that today, but hopefully the world will grow up and realize.
Yeah, hopefully it will, because there was cases of the Church of England being excluded from homophobia the British laws were saying you couldn't be discriminated against homosexuals, and particularly the men. This particular court law was coming out, but the Church of England suddenly got themselves an exclusion, and they had the right to fire any homosexual they discovered or not employ them. Not the priests, they were talking about cleaners and stuff. If you were a cleaner in the church and they discovered you were gay, they had the religious right to fire you.
Well, that is another thing, because that's
it's wrong.
Is the Church of England a private company?
It's religious. Religious, the right to be, what is it called? Above the law, isn't it? It's the right, the exclusions.
But anyway, that's a long discussion. But I think private company or private institution, you should be able to fire someone just because for any reason, I think, more or less, not because, but that's another discussion between libertarians.
It's the same discussion, because in America the problem branched out to where companies ended up having the right to be the religion of the owner, the CEO. Was it the Hobby Toys? Was that the name of the company? Who didn't want Obamacare, and they got one on the grounds of religion, excluding them the right to not have Obamacare because Obamacare incorporated birth control, and being Christians, they didn't believe in birth control, so they had the right not to give it.
Okay, what I mean is, yes, you have to make a difference between, if I have say a coffee shop or something, and I say only people with the Jewish faith or something can enter this shop. Should you be allowed to have that distinction? I don't know. I personally think you should have, and that's not a very good business idea, because you're going to exclude all non-Jews. But this is another thing. If the Jews are saying we should have the right to commit aggravated assault on our children, that's not okay, because the state has an obligation to protect the individual against the community.
But religion has got this sort of card. I think we've all heard it described before, where any human being who goes up to another person and said, I spoke to an invisible man today and he told me I should sacrifice my son, so I've got him tied up over there on a sacrificial lamp and I'm going to sacrifice him later. You'd arrest him and put him in a crazy home, and that'd probably be the end of the story. But if you bring religion into it and say, oh, well, I was talking to God and God told me, he gets a free card, a pass. So religion
it's not always like
insanity.
That. It's not always like that, because there was a court.
Go on.
There was a court in Cologne which actually prosecuted a doctor who circumcised a boy, a Jewish boy, and said you are not allowed to circumcise somebody on spiritual or religious reasons. There needs to be a medical necessity for that to happen. If there is any kind of complication, you are liable. And this is how they caused a lot of outrage in Germany, because now all of a sudden Jews and Muslims are saying that means we cannot go and get our sons circumcised, we have to take them overseas to get them circumcised and bring them back. And there the German government says, well, if that's what you want to do, you're welcome to do so, but you can't do it in Germany. Well, this is only one court in Cologne so far which has done that. But they do the very different thing, and that is they do not allow the church special concessions, and they don't care if somebody does it overseas.
I think the German government overturned that decision because of protests from the Jews and Muslims.
No, they haven't. It's still valid.
Anyway, what I think.
Well, that I know of. Okay, if now let me just speak. If somebody has gone and done that, then it is beyond my knowledge. As far as I know, it has not been overturned, because the government said no, we cannot do that. If the court thinks that that is the correct way, the government cannot go and overturn the ruling of a judge. It needs to go to the whatever court, and that hasn't happened as far as I know.
But anyway, I think you have to be brave enough. I mean, the secular society has to be brave enough and stand up and say, no, it's not okay. And even if you go to another country and do it, we're going to put you in jail.
And this is my question. Are we
Because it's a child.
Are we then sending out the message that it's okay to do this? This is exactly my question.
I think you have to be hard. Yes, I understand the people that say they're going to be bad consequences because they're going to do it anyway in a bad way. But like, if you have a kind of utilitarian point of view, like the greatest good for the greatest number, you have to look at the future also. If you don't do anything now, if you're not hard against it now, it will never be solved. They're going to continue. So you have to be hard. I think you have to put them in jail.
But this is a nonsensical topic you are talking right now, because you can say anything about the law of another nation and still apply the sovereignty of this nation. It doesn't work together. And the second thing is we are selling. With me, I mean Germany, Switzerland, UK, France, US, Canada probably too, are selling weapons to Saudi Arabia. So it doesn't matter this question. If we don't stop this weapon production and selling, the other thing to talk about their laws is nonsensical, I think.
No, I'm not saying that we should change their laws. I'm just saying that it doesn't matter if you commit the crime. I mean, for example, Norway, for example, has a law against prostitution, for example. And for them, it doesn't matter if you buy sex in Norway or outside Norway. You gotta get some kind of punishment. I don't know what the punishment is. I mean, whether or not you think that's a good idea or not.
So
there are examples.
As sex comes back, goes to jail?
Yes. There was a famous Norwegian politician that went to a prostitute in, I think it was Estonia, and he when he come back he got sentenced. But it's not a harsh punishment. I don't think he went to jail, but he have to pay some fee or something, and he lost his job as a politician.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, I'm not. What I mean to say about that is that we already have laws like that, like terrorist laws, for example, and certain special laws. So I think if you want to get rid of the problem, really, then you have to do something quite hard, I think.
So, which means, in other words, not to accept the ancient superstitions and rituals.
Yeah, I say if you want to, it doesn't matter if you commit aggravated assault in our country or if you go and commit it in another country. I mean, it's like pedophilia. Like, I take my child and I go from Scandinavia to I don't know, whatever. Like I don't want to say Belgium, but some country, and I have sex with a child in another country. I mean, you should be able to sentence that person to jail whether he committed the crime in Scandinavia or outside Scandinavia. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, but how does it work? If I now go to Saudi, there's no minimum age. I marry a 10-year-old or 12-year-old for that matter, go back home, and now I live with my wife.
But there you see, that's another thing, because that child in Saudi Arabia, she's not a South African citizen or a German citizen, so there you can't do anything. But the thing here, if you have, like, in Scandinavia, you have a lot of, like, Somali girls, for example, but they are Swedish or Scandinavian citizens or Norwegian citizens or Danish citizens. So if they go to, like, Somalia and do the aggravated assault there and then go back, nothing happens. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
But that is wrong, because they are still Scandinavian citizens, so they should get the You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing as I take my child and go to another country and then commit atrocities, or what do you say? Commit assault there.
Well, this is crazy. I mean, a guy goes to Europe and pops into Holland and smokes, smokes some cannabis, and he goes home and he goes to jail for smoking cannabis.
Well, there's another thing here. You didn't commit a crime against another person in that case.
Aha, so there is some sort of leeway here. It's not automatic and not for every crime.
No, I think, of course, I'm actually being pragmatic. I realize that there will be problems with this, and one of the problems is that they're probably going to do these things in our countries in more dangerous ways. But if you don't take this seriously, if you don't have harsh punishments, this problem will never cease.
Exactly.
So
I agree with you. Yeah. Because what happens in Norway now, if you go to a doctor, I mean, like I said, this happens here in Germany, where a friend of ours is this gynecologist, and she is being asked, listen, can you please perform this and this and this? And she refuses point blank. And she says, listen, if you go and you insist on this, I will have to go report you to the police because this is illegal. You are not allowed to ask me to circumcise your girl. Well, then I will send her to Somalia. And there she's lost because she says, what am I supposed to do now? So she came to me and says, what am I supposed to do? This is some Muslim girl and I cannot circumcise her. Now she's going to send her back to Somalia and she's going to be cut up there by some quack. So am I doing this girl a favor by circumcising her in a proper, operational theater, sterilized way? Or am I morally corrupted if I do that? And this is a dilemma for many people.
I have a question to Abu.
Why are you flipped?
I'm not flipped. Am I flipped? I'm not flipped here.
You have mirror image. Oh, no.
Now you're back. I thought you were typing in front of a mirror.
No, I have a question to Abu because of practical law implementation. What about Sweden has this strange law about sex and condoms? If you have sex without condom, it is rape. Isn't that isn't that the problem of Julian Assange, or was it the problem of Julian Assange?
Well, I'm not an expert on that, but I think what I believe is, I think in the case of Julian, he is. That is a political. I don't really think he. But I understand. Yeah, I know. I'm not an expert on that law, but I know that it's a weird law. I agree.
Let me talk. You're talking about being more harsh, and now that's a law about raping. People raping, and I think this raping in general is a serious thing. And now, if one of Sweden citizen goes, I don't know, to a vacation in Germany and has sex with somebody there, and without a condom, consensual, both want this that way, and now he goes back, and now he should get punished for sex with because he hasn't had sex with a condom. So I don't think your view on this whole issue is very good.
Well, first, I think that law, you can argue whether that law is a very intelligent law or not. But the thing is, if he goes to Germany and do it with a German citizen, I don't know. That's another case. But if he brings his I don't know, girlfriend and rapes her in Germany, should you? I don't know.
But that's not in Germany rape. That's the point I want to make.
Yeah, I understand. Look, that law, we can have another discussion about that law. But what I'm saying, you already have, of course, you can't have that kind of practice with all laws. Especially, I think it should be only for special cases. Like, if you go to a country, you commit a murder, for example. Like really, really heavy crimes. There, even if it's not illegal in that particular country, you should be able to sentence that person in your own country. You see what I'm saying? If it's a really
But what do you do in the cases of Charlie Hebdo, where the assassins were claiming they were doing something for Allah, and probably blasphemy is not illegal wherever they presumably have their minds, you know.
What? I didn't understand.
Look, I'm sorry, but the dog is pissing me off here.
I think
Behave. Look,
If you
what
come
I'm
to
saying,
Scandinavia and you
what I'm
beat your
saying,
dog,
can I
that-
say, look,
Yes.
in Charlie Hebdo, we had Muslims coming over and enforcing a blasphemy law that was probably very applicable in a Muslim state country. They could probably do it quite happily over there. But the fact they did it in France made it illegal. We cannot get to a stage where we say all such things have to be treated the same way. That we have to look at each case individually. And things like blasphemy is not an excuse for murder, but murder for money, in the case of theft, yes, I think we could have a reciprocal agreement with any Muslim country. I say yes, if somebody steals over there and kills, we're just as happy to prosecute them in our country as you're willing to prosecute them in yours. But blasphemy, no.
Come on, guys, you're going all over the place. Getting boring here.
Yeah. I would have no religious laws. Religion is an insanity.
Exactly. Okay, Alasa, what do you say? Do you panda? Does a doctor do some good morally if the doctor then performs circumcision or genital mutilation?
I think there should be a jail term for any doctor or anybody who does that to a child. It would be a child abuse. If there is any reasonable grounds, we know a person will commit such an act against their children, the child should be taken away.
Even if they know that the child will be taken to Somalia and cut there?
If there's an strong evidence that may happen, the child should be taken away from these parents.
Okay, that's a clear statement.
The best way to deal with these crazy dogmas is to ridicule these practices, ridicule religion, mock them. There is no better way to deal with these problems. I know the moderate Muslims will come to defend that it's not in Islam, but despite that, we got to ridicule them as well for denying it.
Okay, and showing that these ancient old superstitions don't fit into society.
By the way, Spam, in May 2012, the Cologne Regional Appellate Court ruled that regional circumcision of male children amounts to bodily injury and is a criminal offence in the area under its jurisdiction.
Right.
But in a nutshell, there was a massive brouhaha because of the Jews and the Muslims complaining. And on the 12th of December 2012, following a series of hearings and consultations, the Bundestag adopted the proposed law explicitly permitting non-therapeutic circumcision to be performed under certain conditions, which seems to be in the first 6 months, for religious reasons. So it is legal in Germany.
Oh, fuck.
The government just caved into the religious.
Yeah, but the government can't make a law which supersedes a judge.
I thought the judges were meant to interpret law.
Yeah, but you can't overrule a judge's decision. It needs to go to a higher court, and only then can it be overturned. But the government can't do that.
They passed it into the German Civil Code, section 1631D.
That genital mutilation is allowed if it's religious.
Yep, I think so.
I wonder how they define that. I need to look at this and see what they say about it. Because I thought, hey, at last the Germans are doing something right. Yes, they can't get anything right. Oh, goodness. Okay, so is that it for now? Shall we go to the next topic? Are we done with this one? Any other comments? Anybody else?
I just want to pass on a good hadith about FGM. It's a short one, not long. Hello?
Yeah, go for it. We're all waiting with bated breath.
Right. This is after Muhammad died, two people had a dispute because in Islamic law, after sex, you have to have a bath.
How can you have a hadith after Muhammad died?
Yeah. You know, like after Muhammad died. Now, two Muslims were having a dispute because in Islam, after sex, you have to have a bath. And they were not too sure. One was saying that if you have sex and you are discharged, then you have to have bath. The other one saying, no. If you just put your dick in there and bring it back, you still need it. So they went to Aisha and to ask. They told her respectfully that we are very ashamed to ask you. No, ask me anything. So they told her this is the dispute is, and then Aisha says, when a circumcised part of the man touches the circumcised part of a woman, bath is obligatory.
Yeah, this is what we just read.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that's why I said there are some vague things about circumcised parts touching each other, and that is all that it takes for people to go apeshit and now cut up poor girls who have done absolutely nothing wrong. And this is exactly the point. Do you go and cave into the religious and say, well, if you want that, well, then sure. If you want to, I don't know, cut off somebody's nose, go ahead, cut off the nose. I don't understand this. I agree 100% with Abu here that it should be anybody who goes and does this for whatever reason should go to court, and that is it. There is no excuse, least of all for some religious mumbo-jumbo. Just because somebody says some cut parts need to be touching and therefore everything needs to be cut up now, when this is what somebody said 1,000 years ago. That's crazy.
Male and female, both male and female.
Male and female, can you believe it? I mean, what the fuck? Why do they think? Can anybody explain to me why a god would say that? What god would get pleasure out of cutting somebody up? When this God can look inside somebody's brain, can read somebody's thoughts, can go manipulate anything that they want, can go and know in advance what this person is going to do, and they still insist that you need to cut off a piece of them. I mean, that's crazy.
Do you remember last week we were talking about schizophrenia? One thing that schizophrenic people can do is that they can start cutting in their own genitalia. I think that the first person, or maybe the first person that did the circumcision, maybe it was a schizophrenic guy that did it on himself or something. That's I don't know if it's true, but anyway. But if they were, we don't have any problem to put them in some hospital and give them medicine and come over their delusions. But when religious people do it, then no, it's culture.
Yeah, who was it that said, come on, this has consequences, because if you go for a job interview and say, I had a discussion with Elvis, then you're a loony and he sends you away. But if you say, no, I had a discussion with Jesus, and everybody's like, yeah, of course, yeah, with Jesus, that we accept. Crazy.
I wanted to talk about the German thing here that Jeremy posted. It's quite interesting, the second part mostly. In the second part, it's talked about even non-professionals, meaning non-medicine, physics, etc., are allowed to do that. Meaning, imams or rabbi, etc., are especially allowed to do that if they are. How do I say it? If they learned it.
Qualified.
Of penis. No, not qualified. Just if they have learned it, if they are specialized in cutting off penises. So they are allowed.
Qualification. Do you have the qualification to medically alter genitals?
I wonder whether that includes the mohels who literally part of their ritual is to suck on the baby's cock and to spit out to clean it, which tends to give them herpes, genital warts or something like that.
Exactly.
Well, that's exactly the point of this second part. They are, if I read it this way in German, they are allowed to do it.
Look at the Sahal slaughter. I mean, pointing an animal in Mecca and reading something from a book, I don't think is going to make killing the animal any better. And yet they insist that any animal that listens to the Quran will willingly go and get itself cut. And this is so sick. I don't know.
I can read this part. I mean, in den ersten 6 Monaten nach der Geburt des Kindes dürfen auch von einer Religionsgesellschaft dazu vorgesehene Personen Beschneidung gemäß Absatz 1 durchführen. Meaning, in the first 6 months, even persons can do this on childs after the birth, 6 months, in the religion community. So they don't really need to be specialized. They are specifically allowed to do that because of the religion thing. So it's quite astonishing, I think.
Hang on, but I'm just seeing this is not a passed law. This is just an idea. It was not passed.
I think it was passed because if you scroll down, you have
Because it says here Gesetzentwurf, which means it's a draft. And here it says what we would like to do is allow this so that somebody who is the custodian of a child is allowed to allow this. So, okay, what I have here, this 163, 1D, and blah, 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 this is just a draft. This has not been passed yet. So,
Wikipedia says it was passed in 2012 by the Bundestag.
Because this is now 11/2012, and this is just a draft.
Yeah, but the Wikipedia says it was passed. 434 ayes, 100 noes, and 46 abstentions.
Yeah, stop spamming. If you read a little bit down on the the 3rd page, it's written that the whole parliament, etc., has nothing against this law, so it is in law now.
Can you believe it? So what else can I do? Can I say, well, I'm a religion. I'm now the head of the religion, and now I want to have. I don't know. Come on, no. This is too.
You're allowed to rape around.
Yes.
If your religion says you must rape at least one person a day.
Yes. Now I'm allowed to do that. Come on. Can I suspend everything? Can I suspend the Constitution? Can I suspend all legal? No, this is crazy. I don't know. This is stupid.
You don't understand it. Stop saying it is not suspending legal. It is legal to cut off penises.
I don't know about cut off penises.
Well, it is nothing else. It is cut off penises. Not the whole penis, but it is cut off penis.
All right, I do not understand it. I do not understand how a ritual can be seen as godly, which involves cutting off and cutting out a clitoris. And even if Muhammad says don't cut too much, it's still barbaric. That's it.
When you can explain how someone like Angela Merkel can tell Germans that this is a Christian country, then you'll probably come closer to the truth of an answer.
Is that what she said?
Oh, she said it a few times when the Muslims were coming in as migrants. We can fight them because we've got our Christian values. But it still comes down to the simple fact is if you're religious, most politicians tend to proclaim their Christianity, if they're from the West, then they've got a vested interest to protect other religions. Because if you tear down religion as a group, your religion is also going to fall. And I think that's part of the reasons why a lot of religions like the COE or Protestants or Catholic movements abroad get a lot of protection from political leaders, because the religions themselves, they do have an old boys network and they are protecting themselves by default. If you protect your patron, the church, by protecting people tearing it down, by protecting Islam, for example, it's a good case for protecting Islam.
funny you mentioned now Merkel, because I just read some more of this draft. It is written by by Merkel. This draft itself, it was written by Merkel and sent it to the president of the German Bundestag. So it was her fucking idea to do this thing, and nobody.
How can a chancellor submit a law? This is impossible.
Anybody can submit a law, but it is taken more serious by the Chancellor of Germany, and the whole parliament has nothing against it. And if everybody say yes, well then you have the law.
Unbelievable. Anyway, but it does seem that I stand corrected, and I need to update my database that now in Germany you can do as you please as long as you call it religion.
No, there's a bit of a thing here. I just posted a link to the newspaper. It seems like male circumcision has always been legal in Germany. In 2012, a court ruled this practice to be unconstitutional because this was harmful for the child. But what happened is they reintroduced it and say that only a physician can perform it, nobody else. The age limit have to be 6 years old. So they made some changes, but it has always been the practice.
But it doesn't say anything about females.
No, nothing about female, only male.
Yeah, Germany's had a long tradition of having Jews in the country, and what with the Holocaust, they're going to have a hell of a problem doing anything that was deemed to look anti-Jewish, and circumcision is probably one of the most remembered things. If you asked people, define a Jew, they're going to say
But it's not being done in Germany.
What?
Circumcision is not being done in Germany.
Well, we just told you it is.
No. It is not customary for Germans to be circumcised.
It is for Jews, though.
No, I'm not. Okay, for non-Jewish and non-Muslim Germans. Like in the US, everybody gets circumcised because the neighbors do it, but here not.
America's a strange country.
Yeah, it is. What is ZNE?
Oh, it was meant to be zone.
Oh, no cut zone.
I just forgot to put the O in.
Oh, cool. I thought it was some mysterious abbreviation or whatever.
So
I just ran across something. I was just skimming through this Wikipedia article about circumcision and law. Apparently, in 1999, the Israeli Supreme Court overruled an attempt to have after-death circumcision outlawed. So I guess if the child dies shortly after birth, they circumcise it just to make God happy or something like that.
Do you know the story of circumcision in the Bible? The later one, when one of the tribes had a girl who wanted to marry one of
and you had to collect them, yeah.
Yeah, and what they said was, yes, you can marry our daughter only if you become members of our tribe, become a Jew. So the other neighbours decided, yes, we'll become Jews. So they all got circumcised, and it caused them an immense amount of pain because they're old, they're 16 and above. So whilst they're all suffering with the pain after the circumcision, the Jews went over to their camp and killed them all.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, isn't the Old Testament wonderful?
I like the one where the guy says, yeah, you can marry my daughter, but you need to bring me 200 foreskins.
Yeah, there was Saul and King David.
I can't remember who the characters were. I couldn't care less. I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's probably all about being able to have a secret handshake of such, isn't it?
Yeah. Show me your dick.
Show me your dick and I'll know if you're one of the clan. I mean, how many other Middle Eastern countries had their own form of mutilation or secret haircuts, which they had to distinguish themselves?
Is there any other religion that has anything else? I don't think
I
there's
know
anything.
Chinese used to bind their women's feet as one sign, and you
Wasn't
got
it
Muslim
Japanese?
women. with the necks and the beads and things.
Well, there's a tribe in Africa where you get metal hoops around the neck
Yeah, the
to
elephant
stretch
women.
it.
Yeah, or the giraffe women, rather.
Yeah.
That is very common. Like the Huns used to, they changed their heads. Like I don't know what they did exactly, but they like made they made some pressure on the heads of their children, so they become taller or something like that. And there are tribes that are like knocking off parts of the teeth. In Scandinavia, we used to during the Viking Age, we used to make them sharper.
I've heard about
so
that.
they look like predators. And that's actually exists in one tribe in Africa also. So it's very common.
Then
But-
there's a tribe
but I
that
think-
put pieces of wood, round pieces of wood in your lips.
Yeah, I think that is, one of the theories for why we have so much visual differences among people is that it is a kind of evolutionary adaptation to stay in your tribe, to like a kind of group selection thing. So one thing that, like when we talked about xenophobia before, one thing to reinforce that is to like do special things like cut off your teeth in certain ways or make your head taller or something like that. So it's quite a common thing. But this thing like cutting in your genitals, that I think that may actually be a result of schizophrenia, I think.
Well, maybe
Because
not.
No, it's a topic.
You've got the Goths, haven't you? And their genital mutilations, the Prince Alberts and the whatnots. I mean, and there's something going on with that sort of subcultures where they're sticking rings in their noses and big holes in their mouths. You've seen them. They're not all
Take
can't all
it-
be schizophrenic, but there is.
Why don't you make a video collecting all crazy rituals and superstitions throughout the ages?
Oh no, thank you. I've
There
got
should be a
other
book.
things to do.
Okay, last topic. I want to talk about pigs because we talked about Angela Merkel and we talked.
Oh, have you seen that? There's been a campaign by Tesco's to make halal popular.
Oh shit! No.
Somebody put out a photograph of this big display of halal stuff and saying, really piss off the halal crowd. Throw in a tub of bacon. It's got a packet of bacon stuck in the middle.
In Germany, in East Germany, in Leipzig, police say that they found a dead pig with the name Angela Merkel painted on the pig. And this was at a construction site where they were building a mosque. So I think in East Germany, which is the more the ex-communist area, the more traditional area, I don't think that this is very popular. This is with the mosques and all that stuff. Now, what the funny thing is, the newspaper calls it xenophobia. I don't understand why they would do that. Why
You've got
label it
election coming up,
xenophobia
haven't you?
when it is not? It is anti-Islam. And that is it. People don't like Islam due to its passages and blatant disregard of human rights, and that's why they're doing stuff like this. It is just a display of displeasure that they don't like any more mosques in Leipzig. It's not xenophobia, it's anti-Muslim. It's not Islamophobia, it's anti-Muslim and anti-Islam. Why can't people do that? Why is this so difficult?
It is the wrong word used. Xenophobia, meaning the fear of the other.
Yes,
And
of outsiders, yeah.
not especially outsiders, but just the other in general. So it is strange because Angela Merkel comes from the East. So why are they afraid of Angela Merkel?
True, I forgot about that.
You've got an election in Germany coming up soon, haven't you?
I have no idea.
Oh, it's
I don't know
coming
anything
up.
about politics here.
They always have elections.
No, there's always it. But I find it
Big one.
amazing that in the States, you can't listen to the radio at the moment. Every 2 seconds, it's interrupted by some stupid idiot telling them, I need to be the president because I'm the best president ever. I mean, who listens to this shit? Everybody knows that since Obama did this huge campaign, and he was brilliant at marketing, he was brilliant with the media, and he duffed it. So how come that people still think that they can make any kind of impact on this? Does anybody still listen to this? Does anybody really pay attention to what they're playing in the radio?
The media does. It seems like they're focused on just Donald Trump and who's the other blonde idiot?
Ted Cruz.
No, the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson. What about him?
Oh,
He wants to be president?
He wants to be PM, doesn't he? So the conversations about who is the biggest idiot in politics these days, and they just go on and on about these characters till you're sick to death of it.
Okay, guys, any other topics? Anything else on Islam? Not Boris Johnson.
Islam.
And please appreciate, I did
Oh,
not
yeah, there's
talk
been
about any
3 days ago.
bombings or suicide attacks or anything by Daesh.
3 days ago, I noticed at the start of the program, some Muslims were executed in America.
Muslims were executed in America.
Yeah, Indiana. I haven't read the article. It's just something I noted that
What do you mean executed?
that they were summarily executed by somebody unknown. And the outrage at the moment is the mayor hasn't talked about it.
Ah, but it's not on the electric chair or something.
Not on the electric chair. No, they were just taken somewhere. I haven't read the full article, and executed by persons unknown. I mean, we've had something similar with an imam in London who was crossing a children's playground at night, and he was apparently killed by persons unknown, but they got suspects now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just seems to be the media doesn't want to tell people much about the news anymore. I mean, maybe 5 years ago they would have said the suspects were white, or the suspects were Asian, or the suspects were of this religion or that religion, and they speculate. Now they just say somebody was killed, and they won't say a word more. It's weird. Nobody wants to offend anyone.
Yeah, I think it's getting there. It's terrible. Okay, what we have today is we have a Hadith of the week, which is supplied by Ali, as usual. And we're still on the topic of who should fight whom and why and where and how and things like that. And that's what we're going to listen. I actually opened up a new channel because his old one was, well, castrated or whatever you want to call it by some overzealous Muslims. And this is what I call the censorship. Well, what is it? The censorship battle, or the censorship etiquette we have at the moment, where everybody seems to be able to censor everybody else. Like this is typical, where his channel was closed down because they, I don't know, after 2 hours they closed down all the videos and said, well, they are like against the, what you would call it, the rules and regulations of YouTube, which is impossible.
They were inappropriate and against the community guidelines.
Amazing, and they were not. Nobody could have watched them because it was too soon, because they were too long. I mean, it's really, it is getting totally crazy, and now we can't even talk about. I mean, it's a matter of time before the Gin&Tonic show is being shut down, because you're not allowed to speak about Islam if you are not saying mashallah, inshallah, and wonderful and Muhammad was the best. If you don't say that, you will be closed down, because Islam is now doing everything to cut everybody else out. So you're not allowed to criticize Islam. That's where we're going. That's where we're going. And then it's down to the people, and then we're going to have a revolution, and then Islam is really going to die if they don't kill each other first. Anyway, here we go. Here is Ali telling us the hadith of the week.
Sahih Muslim, Book 1, number 149. Abu Dar reported, I said, Messenger of Allah, which of the deeds is the best? And he replied, belief in God and jihad in his cause. And I asked, who is the slave whose emancipation is the best? He replied, one who is valuable for his master and whose price is high.
So much for all the Muslims saying, we don't have slaves, and Muhammad didn't have slaves, he freed all the slaves. No, he did not. Any last comments before we say cheery bye for today?
Just that the free Muslims, I've just linked a couple of things, probably will become a story of next week. Seeing it's breaking news. The Independent only 8 hours ago reported the story. But like I say, they don't say there's any sort of like religious or political reason for why they were executed, just that they were multiply shot in a place where people are supposed to gather.
But this is in the US.
It's in the US, Fort Wayne.
They were Muslims.
They were all Muslims. I'm pretty sure the shit's going to hit the fan over in America over this.
Yeah, it's getting pretty bad. And the thing is that Muslims are, or let's say the violent Muslims, the aggressive, the zealots, are not helping with what they are doing at the moment, because they're cutting out the voices like Ike and me and you know, people who are moderate, who are mild, who are just fact-based, and the others, they're going to go crazy because there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of aggression out there. Okay, on that note.
No, let me just say, I think this story sounds suspicious because before you know anything else, you know about they are Muslim. So what has this to do with anything? It sounds like this story about, what was it, 8 or 9 months ago, about this parking lot story, and they are coming out and say, because we are Muslim, etc., that we have this whole killing of our family member, and in the end it was the whole thing about the parking lot, and the family just lied about being Muslims. It had nothing to do with being Muslim. So
they were pulling the victim card.
Yeah, this story sounds same. Before you know anything, you know they are Muslims. So what has to do with anything?
Well, the media is definitely playing the Islamophobic violence in the USA card.
Well, let's wait until we get some facts.
So that's where, well, but they're saying it's not a hate crime.
Yeah, but we don't. What Ike is saying is we don't know anything. There is no knowledge available at the moment. You have like 2 or 3 pieces of information, but that's it.
I'm just trying to answer why he thought it was suspicious. It's not suspicious. The media are playing the Islamophobic card, and they're probably getting a lot of pressure from places like. What do you call them? CARE? Is that the American version of Muslim Brotherhood?
The Council of American Islam, yeah.
Because we've got the Tell Mama in the UK, and they're promoting the Islamophobic fear card like mad at the moment. Can't even walk down the street without being called Islamophobic.
No, this news story isn't anywhere except for UK newspapers. So I don't know. I'll take the story with a grain of salt.
Well, linked to, it's in Breitbart USA News as well. That was 12 hours ago. It's quite a few sources.
Let's see.
Boston Globe.
Let's see if we get some facts over the next couple of days, and let's stop talking about the things where we're only speculating. So.
Yeah, I think it's going to blow up in the next few days.
All right, let's take a look what happens. I wish everybody a beautiful week. We'll see you all next Sunday for the Gin&Tonic show. If you want to come and get in touch with us, go to godless.ch. If you missed it, you want to see an old one, go to archive.godless.ch. And if you want to watch, listen, make comments or whatever, now I have 2 options. Number 1, you can either go to the YouTube channel, and if you want to chat with us, you just go to Hangout, www.godless.ch. God bless you all.
And a
Goodbye
happy
and
leap
salam
year.
alaikum. Sorry?
And a happy leap year.
And a happy leap year. I hope you don't leap too far. Bye.
Bye bye.